Welcome to On the Same Page. I'm Bryna Butler, and this is Casey Bond, and we're here to talk about some of the books that we loved reading over the past couple of months. Right, Casey?
Yes, I'm excited.
So, first off, Casey and I participated in an online rereading of Roar in anticipation for the release of Rage this August.
I'm so excited about this book. It was great to reread it because I fell in love with it the first time. So the second time around, it's just like you get to see some of the smaller details maybe I missed because I was enjoying the book so much the first time.
It's just such an imaginative world.
It is. The world building is insane.
Yeah. Well, to talk a little bit about it, the story starts with Aurora, and she is a princess and a stormling in this universe because there are storms that kind of plague this country. As a stormling, she has the ability to, she is supposed to have the ability, I'm supposed to say, supposed to have the ability to kind of wield these storms.
Yeah, and actually control them, rip their hearts out, basically, and defend her people. And it turns out that Roar does not have the power she's supposed to have, and her mother's tried desperately to hide that.
So, in order to protect the kingdom, and before Aurora steps up to, or Aurora at this part, until Aurora steps up to take over the kingdom, they promise her to another stormling prince.
Who actually does have power.
He's got a lot of power.
He's sort of fierce and a little scary.
One night she overhears him and finds out that he's just using her as a pawn.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like that.
Lovely.
So she runs off with a group of storm hunters.
And she while she's kind of following this person she's betrothed to, she finds this black market of basically people who are dealing with storm hearts and storm magic, and she
all
realizes
kinds of these cool inventions too. It kind of brings in that, not, I wouldn't call it a steampunk novel, but it kind of brings in that kind of feel with some of their weather, their devices.
Definitely has that vibe, and so she realizes that not everybody has this storm magic, but it doesn't mean that they can't gain that magic. And so she finds this sort of motley crew of storm hunters, and she wants them to teach her how to garner this magic for herself so that she can protect her kingdom and she won't need this person she's betrothed to. So
now, I don't know about you, Casey, but that whole ensemble cast of the Storm Hunters, I found them to be very well developed characters and very interesting characters.
Very.
One, kind of the leader of the group is a guy named Locke.
Yep.
And his name is Locke because he came from the
Kingdom of Locke.
Locke in this country, and they kind of have a little bit of back and forth.
They do. They definitely butt heads, but it's fun. Their banter is fun. But everyone in the crew has a specific function. You have a kid named Bait, and he's like basically bait for the storm. He like goes and the storms chase him, and they come around and sort of trap the storms, and one of them takes it down. It's really unique, and the storms have personalities.
That's the kind of the coolest twist. It's so original, and when she goes to this group, of course, she doesn't want them to know she's a princess.
Yeah.
So she tells them her name is Roar, and tells them very little about herself. But as they start to fight these storms, she finds out she's having very strange reactions when she gets close to the storm, and maybe her power is a little different than the typical stormling.
It's really amazing, and the romance is just it blossoms at a good speed. It's not like insta love or whatever. It's really. But it's really tender and sweet. I thought it was great. I think anybody from teen and up could read it. It's a really action-packed and thrilling read.
Some very unpredictable turns at the very end as well. So we're very much looking forward to Rage, which comes out August 27th. Again, this is Roar by Cora Carmack.
Yes. Highly recommend it.
Yes. Casey, anything else you read this time you want to talk about?
I read And I Darken by Kirsten White, and I was intrigued by the cover, of course.
It is gorgeous, and I love purple.
Yes,
so.
And I thought, well, that's unique. And then the tagline there is Claim the Throne, and I thought, what is this about? So I went into it sort of blind, but it's basically a retelling of Vlad Dracula. Not as far as like he has nothing vampiric about him. He's not a vampire. His children are not vampires. It has nothing to do with that. It's sort of a historical retelling, and it focuses on his daughter and son, Lada and Radu. And Lada it's chronologically told, so you see them as children, and you see them as teens, and then you see them when they're basically abandoned by their father in the Ottoman Empire. And that's when Lada just is basically bent on revenge. And she wants to figure out how to get out of this empire. She wants to go back home to her home, which her father promised her, and to basically get revenge on her own dad because he just left them there at the mercy of these people who don't share their beliefs, don't share their values, don't share their religion. And they're basically pawns in this court, and along the way, they the two sort of become friends with the Sultan's son, and the Sultan's son ultimately becomes Sultan. And there's this huge, almost like triangle of friendship and love and hate, and but I guess the thing I loved the most about it is you saw from an early age how Lada's character develops. Like, her father was vicious to her mother, and so she became vicious so her father wouldn't be vicious to her. And she became this strong, powerful, almost to the point of being cruel kid to her brother, to anybody who messed with her, because she was not about to be treated like her mother was treated.
Oh, that's
so you see her become this sort of Dracula character, and this almost not. She has reasons for being evil and for protecting herself, but almost like she's willing for like her brother's a lot more tender than her, and she's willing to let him experience pain in order for no one to know that she loves him, because love can be used against you. So she's willing to let the instructors and people like beat her brother. It doesn't bother me. You're not gonna use him against me.
Oh my goodness.
So it's very dark, but at the same time, it's just a very, very well told, well developed story. Probably one of the best stories I've read this year, if not ever. I'm buying the book for my bookshelf.
Oh, there you go.
That's when you know it's a winner.
Yes.
But a very, very, very good book. The character development is just amazing. So
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
And that was called And I Darken?
And I Darken by Kirsten White. And there are two other books in the series, Now I Rise and Bright We Burn. I haven't read those yet, but I definitely will.
Perfect. One of the books that I read was Stronger Than a Bronze Dragon by Mary Fan. This book was epic. Like you said, this was easily one of the best books I've read this year. It follows a girl named Anlay, who is a warrior girl. She's one of the protectors of her small village in kind of an ancient Chinese-esque environment. Very has a feel of Chinese myth and legend. She helps protect the village against these shadow warriors, these kind of demonic type shadow warriors that are attacking her village. Well, the evil viceroy of the area decides to come in and protect the village with his bronze dragons, which is kind of a steampunk feel. And in exchange for protecting the village, though, he asks for Anlay's hand in marriage and for a sacred artifact, the river pearl, from the village. And so the night before she's to wed him, she's a warrior girl, she's very independent, she's not too into this, but she's willing to do it to protect her village. But the night before, the river pearl is stolen, and she almost catches the thief. It's a kind of a Robin Hood type character called the Masked Giver. So she chases him down, leaves the village, chases him down to get the river pearl back, which they all think is just kind of this holy symbol, this artifact, doesn't have any kind of real power, but she finds out it does, and he needs it just as badly as she needs it.
Oh, wow.
So she ends up on a quest with him, because when his quest is done, she can take it back to her village and have her protections. Lots of twists and turns. Of course, the Masked Giver is becomes a love interest for her, and it's wonderful to how you see kind of that slow burn, like you talked about with Roar. It's that kind of slow burn relationship. Full range of emotions. I laughed, I cried, I had a ball. I loved this book. So just fully recommend Stronger Than a Bronze Dragon by Mary Fan.
That's awesome. And I love the cover. That cover
Yeah,
was stunning.
It's beautiful.
The colors.
I will tell you, if you're looking for it on some of the online bookstores, for whatever reason, it's showing cover to be revealed, and it doesn't actually show that cover.
Maybe
But
they're
just
developing
look for the
another
name Mary Fan and make sure that you get the right one. I think maybe there was just a little hiccup in release,
Sometimes
maybe.
that happens. The next book I want to talk about is The 100th Queen by Emily R. King. Very kind of basic cover, but it speaks volumes. This is a unique book. I've never read a book quite like this. It's basically, it follows Kalinda, and she's an orphan who's raised in a monastery type environment with other females. And the king shows up, and they need to put on sort of like a show to show how strong they are for him. Well, he winds up picking from amongst the females of this monastery. He wants to pick his 100th queen, and there were views that the king should have 100 queens and 100 concubines, and so he's wanting to pick his 100th and final queen. And Kalinda is this sort of girl who's been plagued with fevers her whole life. She's considered the weak one among them, so they figure there is absolutely no way he is going to even look in her direction, which is absolutely not what happens. Because she may be plagued with fevers and weaker physically than some of the others, but she is fiercer than some of the others. And when one of the mean girls attacks her friend, she stands up for her.
It just made her tougher.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Yeah, so she stands up for him, basically wallops this girl, and the king takes notice of her.
Okay.
Very much. So she knows she's one of the two, either queen or concubine, but she's not sure which one until she gets to the palace. And
That
she
would
figures
be-
out that he wants her for his queen.
Okay.
But the thing with the 100th queen is that any of the other concubines can challenge her for her position. Any or all of them can say, I want to be the 100th queen. So she's got a lot of almost like courtly backstabbing and
A lot of plotting and scheming going on.
fights go on. There's a lot of violence. There's a faction of what are called Buddha, which are actually sort of stalking her as she realizes what's going on as she enters the kingdom itself, and they have elemental powers, and she's not sure why they're after her, but sort of things start unfolding, and then her fevers begin to make sense.
Oh.
And it turns out that she's got the Buddha elemental powers as well. So she's actually got the power to take down this king if that's what she so desires.
Oh, yes.
So
Take down the
really
king
great.
with 100 queens and concubines.
It's great.
Let's do it.
So it was very well told. I loved the pacing, the action, just the world building was phenomenal. I highly recommend this book. It was really
Now, this
good.
is going to be a series, I assume.
I believe so. I don't have any information on the
Okay.
other books yet. I'm not sure if it's even been announced. So,
Okay. All right.
but just check out Emily R. King, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, wherever you look for books at, and highly recommend this book. I actually got it through the Prime Reading program.
Okay.
So if you're a Prime member, you can actually go to the Prime Reading program and get one of those books for free every month. So it's pretty neat.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, Casey, you know how I feel about this book. So sometimes people liken Casey and I don't know if she's heard this, but I've heard that we're kind of the Wayne and Garth of the book world with our little cable access show. And so let me say this. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
I'll be Garth. I'll be Garth. You be Wayne.
High Treason is, of course, by Casey L. Bond, and that is her last book in the High Stakes series. Yeah. And that series, Casey, is so amazing. I could not put that thing down. I know I mentioned on the show last time, I begged her for that last book. She did give in a little bit. I got it a couple weeks maybe before release. Just flew through it. I absolutely love this last installment. We see our protagonist, Eve. She's had been given visions of a dark version of her and that fear that she has to face of what is she going to become if she does the things she needs to do. And just everything doesn't wrap up neatly in a nice little bow for Eve. This last book is just full of action. Secrets dropped like bombs throughout the whole thing. I felt like I was messaging Casey every 5 minutes as I hit these, but within the first few pages, a major bomb drops. All the way to the very last page, and a simple few words said, another bomb drops. to make the ending completely unpredictable, and I just love this series. If you want to write offshoots of the series, I know this is the last one in the series, offshoots, we are so up for, Casey.
And the door is open. I don't know if that'll happen.
You heard it here.
The door's been left open for that.
But that's a high stakes series, High Treason being the last in the series, High Stakes being the first one in the series. It's a series you don't want to miss.
Yay.
I just love this series.
Thank you.
That said, High Treason, I want to go on next to The Right of Wands by Mackenzie Floor, and I believe we have a cover of that for the screen. Right of Wands, I picked this up at Once Upon a Book. Very much a Harry Potter-esque type novel.
Oh, good.
So if you are a Harry Potter fan, I urge you to pick this one up. It follows a couple of boys, one called Mietta, and that is not how his name is spelled. I had to listen to the audiobook to get the correct pronunciation. But Mietta, to me, was one of the most interesting characters in the book. It starts out with him going to his Right of Wands ceremony, which is just kind of a passage ceremony for a young wizard. And during that ceremony, he sees a vision of himself, and it's him dying of this terrible disease, having this long, drawn-out, terrible death. And he actually almost dies in the ceremony because it's so troubling. But so then Mietta must work you find him start on this journey to try to find a cure for this disease that he's to get in the future and die from. So his character development is unreal through this. It jumps around a little bit in years. You see him as a teenager. I think he's 12 when the book starts. And then we take kind of, I think it's about a 24-year leap into the future. So you see him as an adult, and you skip a portion kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see things must have happened because he's very different from this kind of optimistic boy, very curious and going into his Right of Wands ceremony to the man he becomes, very obsessed with this cure by this point. You can see that over the years he has dabbled in dark arts, and that dark magic has taken a toll on him, and you can see his personality change, but you've got that leap. You don't know exactly what happens.
That's intriguing,
in those years in
too.
between.
That's intriguing. You're like, what happened to you?
It's very cool. And also, the other boy in the story there, too, was Orland. Orland's journey is very huge character development as well. Orland was this boy who came to the king's court when he was 14, and essentially his father abandoned him in the court, left him with the king to become the king's seer. And so you see his kind of his progression where he too was kind of thrown into this role. He was not ready for it at all at 14, of course. And you see him as an adult and still kind of struggling with these issues of, am I going to be able to fulfill this? And still struggling from the abandonment from his father and that kind of thing. So plotting and scheming is crazy rampant in this book. Everybody has their own objectives, and it's a lot of secrets, family secrets especially, assassinations of the kings, and just an introduction to this really big world. And I highly recommend it. I will say that I actually listened to this on audiobook form. The audiobook is amazing. The narrator, I think I've jotted his name down, Chris Walker Thompson, is so good. He's about one of the best narrators I've ever heard. There's also some ambient special effects in this, which you don't usually hear in an audiobook that made it really cool. But my one disclaimer on that is that because I didn't read it in book form, it's easy to get lost in what year they're in because there is some bouncing. Okay. So be very careful when they do the chapter headers to kind of note where you're at. I'd say don't stop in the middle of a chapter when you're listening to audiobook. Listen to the whole chapter and then start again so you can keep track of what year you're in.
Right. That's important when they're a timeline.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. So are there more in the series?
It appears that there's going to be more in the series.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Because when you love a world, you can't get enough of it. You want to stay in it.
Yeah, and I met the author at Once Upon a Book. Very enthusiastic, very much a Doctor Who fan.
Oh,
she's involved in a Doctor Who podcast. She was actually wearing a Harry Potter robe to the Once Upon a Book. So what's best of that? And had her
That's
wand
great.
there. So very cool. Look her up to Mackenzie Floor.
Awesome. Next, I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kimmerer. And look at that cover. It's stunning.
It's pretty.
And it's basically like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And it follows Ren, a prince of Emberfall, who was cursed by a sorceress, Lilith, because he sort of acted in a bad way toward her. And he is cursed to become a beast at the end of every season. And he has, over the seasons, shredded his kingdom apart and everybody in it, to the point where this is the final season. He and his captain commander, Gray, are basically the only people left. And he's got to find a girl in our world and bring her to Emberfall to see if she can break this curse. And of course, the curse is she would have to love him. Well, Gray chooses this girl on the street, and she's sort of out of it, and the girl, Harper, the main character, sees him taking this girl and grabs a tire iron and is like, I don't think so. So she goes after him with this tire iron and is like, you're messing with the wrong chick. Like, I come from the bad part of town. Her dad was like
love a character like
involved
that.
with like bad people. His debts passed to his children. So her brother's caught up with these like mobsters doing these bad things. She's like, I just don't think so. So she actually gets dragged back into Emberfall with him as they're scuffling, like this portal thing closes and she's trapped there. And she is not happy about it. And so she's not one of these simpering people who's going to like fall in love with this prince. Like, she is angry as a hornet.
Yeah.
She does not want to be there. She does not know why they're kidnapping people. What in the heck is going on? Her mom's got cancer. Her brother's mixed up with these people. She wants to go home. But as she sees sort of what's going on in Emberfall, she realized there are people beyond the castle that need their help. And with those people, she falls in love.
Okay.
She just really feels like she needs to try to help. And she doesn't know what this curse is, and are not really allowed to tell her, or it sort of breaks the treaty or whatever that they've made with this witch. And well, I tell you, it's just a great book. If you love original takes on fairy tales, it hits all the beats of the original story, but it does it in such a unique and fun way. With their characters butt heads a lot, but Ren is a really good guy. It turns out he's just sort of given up when he stops wallowing, as she says, and starts doing something about it.
Oh, so she gives it to him.
Like, he needed her. He didn't need anybody else. He just needed her. And it was
cool.
just a really, really well told book. And then, like, it's like a slow burn romance. And, like, once he stops wallowing, she learns to respect him. And then once she respects him, she's sort of attracted to him. That attraction turns to love. It's like a slow progression. It's not like that
instant love that we talked about. Yeah.
And I don't hate insta love. I think there's a place for it, but I also think there's a place for things to progress naturally as well. So so it's a very good book. I really enjoyed it.
Good. Yeah. I've heard a lot about that one. That's one that you see a lot of times. Yeah. One of the books that I read was Jennifer Armentrout's Storm and Fury.
Oh, girl, that cover.
Have you seen this one? Yeah, the cover
pretty.
is what kind of got me, and I don't know if you can see the detail, but there's a lot of detail in this cover. It's kind of feathered wings and background. It's actually kind of centers around these gargoyle shifters, which I hadn't really read gargoyles before. That's just not something I read. But the female has female protagonist, strong female lead in Trinity. In this world, the gargoyles are called wardens, and they fight demons. And Trinity's been kind of living with them for her protection. And she's been trained too. She's not really allowed to fight too much though, but she's been trained along with them. She has, one of them serves as her protector and brother. And seeing their relationship through the book is really cool because they have that kind of witty banter. And you think, is there a romance between them? But they kind of tried it, but realized they were a better off friend kind of thing. They find out that something is coming around and killing the gargoyle clans, and they have a visiting clan comes to warn them, and one of the people in that clan becomes her romantic interest. It is a paranormal romance, but it is so action-packed. It is not crazy. I have not read Jennifer Armentrout's Dark Elements series, but I guess this love interest comes from that series. So it's kind of an offshoot of that Dark Elements series. This is a new series called the Harbinger series. Highly recommend. And I wanted to give a tip. I actually purchased this from Fountain Bookstore in Virginia, and you can do that and actually purchase online and have them shipped to you. They did this book as a special pre-order with a bonus. I actually got this cool little book bow.
That's cute.
And it's got Jennifer's signature on it.
Oh, wow.
But they do this for a lot of different authors. You can do, it is a signed copy. You can do signed copies pre-order with a little bonus gift. I think they're doing one currently with Jocelyn Jackson's new
Her
mystery.
next one, The Burning, what is it called? I think she's got it up with them as well, because she's got a bag for it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first in the series that they're coming out pretty quickly, I think.
Jennifer is an amazing author. She's been around a while, but
her Lux series.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And her contemporary romances are so good. So if you need any sort of fix, look at Jennifer Armentrout. She will not disappoint ever. And she's hosting a Polycon in March of next year in Washington, D.C., and I'm really fortunate I'm going to be able to sign there. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, great West Virginia author.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
Casey, did you have anything else you'd like to talk about today? You want me to go ahead? Because I have a few
I think
things.
we've got,
how much time do we have left? Oh, our producer is telling us we don't have too much time left.
Might have to save some for next time.
I just wanted to mention, I did read Dead Girls Detective Agency by Susie Cox. That book is actually the basis for a new Snapchat series.
Oh, nice.
I loved the book. The Snapchat series for me was I'm not a teenager that has trouble paying attention, so I didn't like the Snapchat series, which jumped. I much more preferred the book, and this was a really good one. Charlotte's having a bad day until she gets pushed off into the subway tracks and dies, and then has to find who murdered her to be able to pass on out of limbo. So it's a really cool kind of paranormal mystery romance thrown in kind of book.
So we'll talk about that next time. Next time I want to talk about A Touch of Gold by Annie Sullivan. It's another retelling, and then I promise I'm going to give those a rest for a little bit. It's a retelling of King Midas's daughter, actually. So it's fun. A Pack of Blood and Lies by Olivia Wildenstein, and The Ermion Feuds by Frost K. Okay. So good.
Perfect. So I think that is all we have time for this time. So we have many, many more books to talk to you in our September episode. That's all. I'm Bryna Butler, and this is Casey Bond. We'll see you next time.